Hey, welcome to an edition of ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder here in Atlanta. JJ's off this evening. Wayne, our producer in Memphis, Tennessee, will be joined by Dave Cohen, voice of the Georgia State Panthers. In approximately 15 minutes, we'll be talking some Georgia State basketball and baseball. The Georgia State baseball program is one of the surprises in NCAA baseball. They're in first place in the Sun Belt Conference. And also, Georgia State has a new head basketball coach. He is a native of Atlanta, Georgia, and we will talk about him later on in the show. Also, we're going to talk about your Atlanta Braves and your Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have the draft coming up. The Braves just played their opening series of the season. They went 2-2 against the Cincinnati Reds. Just want to let everybody know you can get a hold of all of us at ATL Prime Sports on Twitter. Myself at CORDER Todd Corder Todd. Wayne at RWY Jr. You can get a hold of JJ at JJ Get You One. And again, all of us at ATL Prime Sports. You can catch the recording of the show on Twitter. You can catch it on YouTube. You can catch it also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, if I'm not mistaken. I usually just look at it on Twitter. So I don't know them all. Wayne, am I missing anything here?
No, I think you got it, man.
Oh, good. So anyway, you'll be able to catch Dave at Georgia State Voice on Twitter when he comes on in about 15 minutes from now. We'll discuss things going on with the Georgia State baseball program. And I appreciate everyone for listening in each week. We're starting to pick up more and more subscribers each and every week. Actually, Dave's going to go ahead and call in now. So we're going to go ahead and start the show with Dave first. And then we'll talk the Braves and the Falcons. And, while he's calling in, Wayne, I don't know if you had a chance to look at that video with Joey Votto of the Reds. Actually, during the baseball game, they interviewed him. I've never seen that before during a Major League Baseball game. We'll talk about that shortly, as I just received a message that he's calling in now. Is he up and ready there, Wayne?
I don't see anything yet.
He should be.
Oh, well. Okay,
Yep,
there he is.
There he is. Hey, it's going to work out just fine. A little patience there, packed a little patience. So Dave will be coming on here momentarily, and I can't wait to talk to him. We mentioned moments ago about the Georgia State baseball program being one of the best stories in college baseball. It's an absolute pleasant surprise here in Atlanta, and there he is, Dave.
All right.
Dave, thanks for joining us. JJ's not here this evening, but you have myself and Wayne, and we're so glad for you to join in the very last minute. Really appreciate it. We were just talking about Georgia State baseball and what a pleasant surprise they are. Is there a bigger story in NCAA baseball right now than Georgia State 22-10? The Panthers have the second best record through 32 games in program history, 10-2 in first place in the Sun Belt. They have Georgia Tech and Georgia Southern on the road this week. They've won 7 straight. That is a sweep of Carolina, Coastal Carolina, and they're getting contributions from several players. Max Ryerson's been National Player of the Week. What was on April 4th? Cameron Jones, a National Player of the Week back in mid-March. And, of course, Ryan Watson got his 7th save this weekend. Griffin Chaney's got 10 homers. And Josh Smith had a homer and 3 RBIs this weekend. They're getting contributions up and down the roster. But what is the biggest reason for their success?
Well, it's great to be with you guys again on the podcast. And, Georgia State baseball, definitely one of the surprises in the Sun Belt Conference right now, as you mentioned, sitting atop the standings in the league. Last time I saw them, because they were at Coastal Carolina this weekend, I saw a little bit of it, but they swept the Chanticleers up in Conway. And the week prior, they swept South Alabama, which was definitely eye-opening around the Sun Belt Conference. Those games were in Atlanta. And, Brad Stromdahl has really put together a roster that from top to bottom, there's really not a weak bat in the lineup, at least, most outings. Some experience on that pitching staff. You mentioned Ryan Watson. That's a guy who a season ago and 2 seasons ago was looked at as a Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend guy as a starter who has really kind of found his niche now coming out of the bullpen and being able to close games out. But he's got a pretty good roster with regards to his arms and guys in the middle relief and late relief, and again Watson coming out and closing ball games out. He's gotten significant innings from his starters, and then at the end of the day, when you look at the 40 plus home runs, which leads the Sun Belt Conference, Max Ryerson is the Sun Belt leader in home runs, and I think not Cameron Jones, but Griffin Chaney was right behind them. This team can really hit the ball. And, again, Brad Stromdahl has done a really nice job in recruiting based on where we play out at the ballpark at Panthersville. From top to bottom in the Sun Belt, it would rank near the bottom as far as quality of, home ballparks, until Georgia State's able to eventually build that new baseball park down on the site of the old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. So, I give Brad Stromdahl credit that he's been able to put together a roster and recruit to the level that he has, and not able to necessarily sell, a shiny new baseball stadium. But what he does have to sell, interestingly enough, is the Georgia State baseball locker room down at Center Park Stadium, the former Turner Field. Baseball inhabits the Braves' old locker room and has the Braves' old indoor hitting space. So they've really done a good job selling the program based on what they have at the stadium, more so than what they have out at Panthersville. And so far, so good. It's worked. They've really taken the Sun Belt by storm. Nobody expected Georgia State to be doing what they're doing baseball-wise. Again, the sweep of South Alabama really opened a lot of eyes. The sweep of Coastal Carolina really is making people take notice. And we're at Georgia Tech tomorrow night, which I'll have on a streaming audio broadcast to our GSU Athletics mobile app. And then they're headed down to Statesboro for a 3-game weekend series against a pretty good Georgia Southern ball club. So it'll get interesting again tomorrow night, Tuesday night, and interesting again this weekend down against Georgia Southern.
Well, now they can sell winning, because this team is winning. That, to me, as a player, that would be my biggest attraction. Are they winning? And also they can sell, if I'm not mistaken, back in October, I saw they had the 37th best recruiting class in the country. That's going to sell. So whatever they're doing it correctly, and they're very impressive. And they're playing with the big boys, Dave, and they can play with Georgia Tech. That's already been proven.
Yeah, they played Georgia Tech once. We lost at home 4-2. I did the game against Georgia up at Coolray Field a few weeks ago. Got out to a 3-0 lead in that one, and then the bats went silent, and we ended up losing 10-3. If I could make it personal for a minute,
sure,
with regards to recruiting, when Brad Stromdahl, who was a former Georgia State assistant coach, left Georgia State, headed up I-85 to start the baseball program at a then relatively brand new Georgia Gwinnett College, which he built into a perennial top 10 NAIA program. Of course, NAIA baseball programs are not funded near to the level that even an NCAA program is. When it came time for my oldest son, as a senior at Chattahoochee High School in Johns Creek, and he's about 6'4" and a left-handed pitcher, he wanted to play baseball in college, and we kind of knew in and around what level he was going to be capable of playing. We only made 2 recruiting visits. One was to Georgia College and State University down in Milledgeville, and we knew the baseball coach down there because he was a former Georgia State baseball player. But then we also went up to Georgia Gwinnett and paid a visit there and did the tour, because my wife and I both really liked Brad Stromdahl and wanted our son to have the experience of playing for someone like that. And so we ultimately signed to go to Georgia Gwinnett out of high school. And it was a great experience up until Georgia State did not renew Greg Frady. I knew that Brad was going to be interested in coming back to Georgia State and making the jump to Division I. in that he lives in Decatur anyway. And so, without giving you the rest of the story, the whole reason we kind of steered our son to Georgia Gwinnett was to have the experience of playing for Brad. So, yes, I do know firsthand his ability to recruit players and why players really like to play for him and his staff. I see it every game that I'm out there, and I know I've known Brad personally again since he was at Georgia State as a Greg Frady assistant coach. So when it comes to recruiting, again, firsthand, I know it as to why, parents and players want to go ahead and play for him.
That is a heck of a story. I'm actually glad you took a couple minutes to tell that. Now you're actually watching it firsthand as a broadcaster, and from that standpoint, it's got to be quite a thrill for you. This is, like we said, through 32 games, this is the second best start they've ever had. So, wow. I mean, I got to ask a question. I don't know how many teams the NCAA takes, out of the Sun Belt for baseball. Do they take more than one? The reason I'm asking this is because you are in the Southeast. This is a recruiting hotbed. The best baseball players in the United States from the Southeast, Southwest, and Far West. Does the Sun Belt get more than one invitation now that 64 are in there?
I can't remember the last couple of years how many have ended up getting the bid other than the automatic bid. Ultimately, like basketball, it comes down to strength of schedule beyond your overall record and how you've done in your conference tournament. It comes down to strength of schedule and the body of work that you've put together during the regular season. Now, Georgia State has a win over top 15 Clemson about a month ago in Clemson, South Carolina. Again, lost to Georgia Tech 4-2 at Panthersville. Lost to Georgia at Coolray 10-3. They play Georgia Tech tomorrow night, Tuesday night. They will play Georgia again April the 26th in Athens. They did go down to Gainesville very early in the season, and they dropped a 3-game series to the Florida Gators. So, it's like basketball. If you're going to go ahead and raise your hand and say, look at me and consider me for an at-large, you've got to have some quality non-conference wins. Right now, they've got one, 15th-ranked Clemson. It would be great if they could beat Georgia in Athens later this month and beat Georgia Tech tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Then you've got 3 quality non-conference wins that if you finish second or you finish in the championship or lose in the championship game of the Sun Belt Conference tournament, you can say, hey, take a closer look. This is the overall body of work, and this is who we beat in our non-conference schedule. But, the Clemson win is a great win. Is it enough to get an at-large? I would say probably not.
We're going to find out. Let's switch over from baseball to basketball. Georgia State hired new head coach Jonas Hayes. He played at Western Carolina. More importantly, he played at Georgia. And he was born here in Atlanta, so he's coming home. And as the intern head coach at Xavier, he went 4-0 and won the NIT championship. And he's had a ton of experience. He was an assistant coach. He started out as an assistant coach at Morehouse after his playing career was over. So he's coming home. Tell us about Jonas Hayes. And Georgia State must be thrilled. I mean, this is a basketball program that's been really successful, and now they have a chance to become potentially more successful.
No question. It's the worst. It was the worst kept secret in Atlanta this last week and a half. Even going back to when Jonas was coaching the final 4 games for Xavier, as you mentioned, in the NIT in New York, and ultimately winning the NIT. Already his name was circulating in all the social media channels that he was going to be a top candidate for the Georgia State job. His twin brother, Jarvis, was already an assistant under Rob Lanier, and Jarvis did not go to Dallas to the SMU job with Coach Lanier and the rest of the staff. So you're going to have both Jonas as head coach, Jarvis as an assistant coach on the Georgia State bench. And as you mentioned, they both played at Douglas High School, so they're products of the Atlanta public school system. They were great high school players. They started out their college career in Cullowhee at Western Carolina, ultimately transferring back in state to the University of Georgia to play for Jim Harrick. As a matter of fact, we were talking today. Back in 2001 and 2002, Georgia State, under then head coach Lefty Driesell, played Georgia twice. 2001, we ran them out of Stegman Coliseum in Athens, 91-79.
Yes.
That was their transfer year. They were in the building, but they didn't play because you had to sit out. The next year, we played Georgia at the Georgia Dome and beat them again, and the Hayes twins did play in that ball game. So our paths had crossed back as early as 2002. Now, little did I know that I would end up, still being on the radio at ESPN Plus with Georgia State. And now both of them are going to be one's going to be the head coach, another one's going to stay on as the assistant coach. But a lot of favorable feedback on Jonas coming back to Atlanta, getting that first head coaching job at Georgia State. As I said to him earlier today in an interview that we did, what a fantastic time to be coming back to Atlanta and taking over at Georgia State. Very similar to Rob Lanier and what he inherited from Ron Hunter. Jonas comes in as Georgia State comes off an NCAA tournament appearance. The loss to Gonzaga out at Portland. Okay, it was a loss, but the program still won the Sun Belt Conference tournament, won 10 games down the stretch, 7 in the regular season, 3 in the Sun Belt tournament, and made it to the NCAA tournament, for the 4th time in the last 7 years. It's not like he's coming into a program that is struggling and needs to be rebuilt. This is not a rebuild. It's not even close to a rebuild, although he is going to have to rebuild the roster some because we had 4 seniors, and now we've lost 2 to the transfer portal. But he's already, if you follow social media, got commitments from 2 transfers. He brought one, Dewan Odom, coming in from Xavier, and another kid, Brendan Tucker, coming in from College of Charleston, who's from Decula. So again, it's not a rebuild because the program's been struggling. It's kind of a rebuilding of the roster because of having 4 seniors and because of the all of a sudden transfer portal that has taken two of our players. But yeah, the response has been fantastic for him to come back to Atlanta from Cincinnati and take over Georgia State and then be rejoined with his twin brother who's already on our staff. It's great.
That is so amazing. And that is just amazing. And next year you have the new arena, correct? Will it be ready in time for the opener?
Oh, yeah. The arena is supposed to open in August this summer.
See?
And the first season will be the 2022-2023 season.
Incredible. New head coach, new arena, going to be with his brother, coming off the NCAA tournament 4 times in the last 7 years. Played Gonzaga toe-to-toe there for a good 30-plus minutes, and then it got away from them.
Sure.
But this is a program that is on the rise, and what a perfect time to bring in that name with that pedigree. This can only help recruiting in the future and a transfer portal currently. Dave, that's remarkable.
I was talking to a member of the media today at the press of the introduction press conference. And as we were saying, you guys, we've talked about it. It's the challenge of being a group of 5 program in a major market. And we were talking about the challenges from a visibility standpoint. And, this local Atlanta TV personality and I were talking. And it's like, look, I understand Georgia won the national championship. The Braves won the World Series. We've got Georgia Tech 5 miles from campus, Hawks, Falcons, Atlanta United, ECHL hockey, NASCAR. Right. There's a million things sporting-wise. High school sports is big, obviously, as you know, all around the city and the state. Georgia State, in order to stay relevant, has to do what they've done this year. You finish strong in football, you go to a bowl game. 4 months later, you win the Sun Belt Conference tournament. You're in the NCAA tournament, the only school in the state. Baseball's off to a great start. You hire a head coach like Jonas Hayes, much like Sean Elliott, that is hard to ignore because they're winning. The Atlanta media will give Georgia State the coverage that's due based on what happens on the field and on the court. And if you look back at the last year and really the last 7 years, or 6 or 7 years, the NCAA tournaments, back-to-back bowl wins this year and last year, Georgia State is doing what it's supposed to do with regards to success on the playing field and on the court in order to garner the attention that they desire. They just got to keep it up.
I can't wait for the future. It's exciting. We'll continue to help Georgia State sports here on ATL Prime Sports. We're also going to help Clayton State sports next year, especially the basketball program, as we'll have the coaches for the men's and women's here on ATL Prime Sports. And of course, I'll be on the mic for all their home games, and I can't wait for that. And Dave, I can't wait for your call for Georgia State baseball. And also, I'm looking forward to college football season in the fall. It'll be here before you know it. It's an exciting time for Georgia State. When is the spring game? Is it already happened? Because I've been in and out of
Spring
town.
game was a couple of weeks ago on a Friday night.
I was in California. I'm sorry.
Blue team beat the white team 24-7, if that tells you anything. I couldn't tell you half the guys on the blue team. I can't remember who half the guys were on the white team, but Georgia State every year, Sean Elliott he picks 2 team captains. They conduct a draft, and they pick a blue team and a white team, and then they play.
You know, that tells me nothing. I was in California doing USA Nationals, and so if I missed that, I'm sorry. Hey, thanks for joining us at the very last minute. As always, we'll continue to keep in touch with you here during the baseball season and have you back on. And much success to you and the baseball program and the university.
Appreciate it. Always enjoyed coming on with you guys. And Wayne, hey to you up there in Memphis.
Right.
Hope all's well.
Yeah, everything's fine.
You know what? His basketball coach, Penny Hardaway, got mentioned today for the Lakers position. That lost. I just saw it like moments ago before I came on, that he's one of the guys that's mentioned for the head coach for the Lakers. Because
I saw the Lakers had parted ways with Frank Vogel, and Wayne would know better because he's right there in the city. I talked to Rodney Hamilton when I was out in Portland, and I watched Memphis practice there at the arena because their shoot-around was right before ours. But then, of course, coming out of the NCAA tournament, now there's some talk of NCAA investigation up there. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens. But I've met Penny Hardaway once. I called a game when Georgia State played against Memphis in the old Pyramid, and I wish him the best, and I wish Rodney the best at University of Memphis as well.
All right.
Well, thanks for coming on, David, the last minute. Really appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk to you again soon. You guys take it easy.
You too. Take care. Bye now.
See ya.
Voice of the Georgia State Panthers, Dave Cohen, right here on ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder with you here in Atlanta. Wayne in Memphis, our producer, who does a hell of a job. Wayne, we'll get to the other subject here in a minute. We're on the subject with Dave. I did see one of the names, Penny Hardaway, potentially for the Lakers. There are a million names that'll be thrown out there, but I thought, my goodness. But then again, Memphis having its issues potentially with the NCAA down the line. What are your thoughts on those things, if you have thoughts on those two things real quick?
Well, I'll start off with the first one. This is the first time I'm hearing about Hardaway possibly getting a job in the NBA. So I really haven't formed any opinions or thoughts on that yet. As far as the sanctions go, I think it has a lot to do with what happened the season previous with one of the players not being eligible and playing and some of the things surrounding that. And most of it has to do with how the university or the basketball program cooperated with the NCAA. And those are the violations I think they're facing. Well, we'll see what happens. But I knew the transfer portal here had been going in one direction through the outdoor. I did not know that the coach was thinking about jumping in that transfer portal.
I tell you what, there's a lot of opinions going around about the transfer portal. Tom Izzo had his just a few days ago, the head coach at Michigan State University, and he thinks it's really bad for college basketball. His thought is, if the going gets tough, you should stick it out instead of running to the next school, along with some other thoughts he had. I think the transfer portal honestly could be good for some kids and very bad for others. I think it has to be taken on an individual basis. But overall, I completely agree with Izzo in terms of things getting tough. What kind of mettle do you have in order to stick it out. And of course, there's the opposite side where, well, these coaches can get up and leave anytime they want. Why can't the players? So, that's a debate for another time, for another day. But, that transfer portal is still making big news in college basketball. What are your thoughts on it, real quick?
It doesn't. I don't like the way that it operates. Simply because to me, it makes the player look like he's chasing something other than his loyalty to whatever school he originally signed for. Like he's doing something more for himself than he is for the team or for the school.
Well, that definitely, some folks do think along that way. It'll be interesting to find out as time goes on how it really truly works out with the transfer portal in all sports, college football and especially college basketball. Let's flip over and we'll talk about some baseball in the Atlanta Braves. The Braves went 2-2 this weekend. Matt Olson's tied with a hits lead here as we record this broadcast with 8, had 571 average, 1 homer and an RBI, and his on-pace percentage is about 65%. That's a tremendous week for the new Atlanta Braves first baseman who was just traded. The Braves got him when they knew they weren't going to sign Freddie Freeman. They got him in a trade from the Oakland A's and the Parkview High standout. Yes, JJ, that's the high school you went to. He's really paid off early, paid big dividends for the Braves. It was Champions Week this week at Truist Park. They had the ring ceremony, the championship banner, and etc. But you know what? And those were all great things. Don't get me wrong. That was cool. But I tell you what, on the opening night, they had Joey Votto, the Cincinnati Reds veteran third baseman, 38 years old. They interviewed him live while he was playing first base. And I tell you what, he was fantastic in the interview. He was honest. I like the thing he said was, I do not want to DH. I want to stay in shape and play first base for the rest of my career. I can do it. That to me stood out. The reason it stood out is because now Major League Baseball has the designated hitter in the National League. Personally, I can't stand it. I'll have to get used to it. I think the National League, that's what stood out from the AL to the NL. You're losing a lot of strategy out of the game. There's no double switch. When do you pull the pitcher? These are all huge decisions that a manager has to make. Where's the pitcher's turn coming up in the batting order, and etc. And now it's just totally different. And now that the DH is in the National League, it's going to be the same as American League. And why even have separate leagues, honestly? But that's a story for another conversation. We'll go back to the interview. What stood out with you in the interview, Wayne, when he interviewed Joey Votto? I thought he was fantastic.
Well, it was interesting to say the least. And I kind of started wondering how much of his chatter to the, whoever the broadcaster was up in the booth was being overheard by the guy who was leading off of first base at the time. And I'm thinking, how does he focus on this game and everything that's going on right now and be able to chat it up with this guy? If it were me, I'm not sure I'd be able to talk that much.
Well, did you hear him? He said his heart was beating 100 miles an hour.
It didn't. He was very calm. It didn't seem like that.
Right. And he said, my heart's beating 1,000 miles an hour. I've never done an interview while playing in the field or at bat. And no way was he going to do it at bat. But while he was in the field and you really got to feel, hey, it was funny. He included the Braves' Ozzie Albies in the interview, which I thought was fantastic when he said, hey, I'm thinking about getting a gold tooth. And what do you think, Ozzie? He said, yeah, go ahead and go for it. He talked about a midlife crisis and, he also said the Braves did it right with the ring ceremony. It was first class. It was just a fantastic interview. And the part that I caught the most, because I umpire a lot of baseball, is that he told the umpire, can you give me a little more room, please? Can you, make sure that I've got enough room? Because once he stopped playing in front of the bag to hold the runner on, he went back into a no doubles position. So if they hit the ball down the line, he can prevent it and possibly make a play and get the batter out at first base. But he told the umpire, scoot over, scoot over. I thought, that was nice for the fans to be able to show the players do have a little bit of interaction with the umpire. They have interaction with the runner at first base, in this case, Ozzie Albies. And if that's one Braves player that I would like to be seen interviewed during the game, would be Ozzie Albies, because he's so personable and likable. But to me, I don't know how you could do it with a second baseman. I guess the safest position would be either first base or in the outfield, because first base, you can do it, but I would think they would want to there's no way they can interview a catcher, Wayne. There's no way they can interview a third baseman, a shortstop, or second baseman. It's got to be the outfield. What are you thinking about that? Do you ever think about that?
No, it's something that until you had shown me that interview, it wasn't anything that ever entered my mind.
Well, it never entered my mind until I saw it.
So, it's interesting and everything, but hopefully they'll get to interview or do that same type of thing with players that are off the field as well, because you'd like to hear somebody who had just come off the field, and sitting on the bench, or maybe even the bullpen back there, and
what?
Talk to those guys.
That's a great job, because you can interview them during the game while they're not warming up. But then again, that's not action on the field. But I like your thought process, and maybe these other producers of the major networks, maybe they'll think of this in the near future. I'm sure they have a planned lineup throughout the season, and we're going to see it. Let's switch over from Major League Baseball to the National Football League and your Atlanta Falcons, Wayne, and to our listening audience here, or watching us, or however they want to do it. The Falcons are set to meet with 3 quarterbacks this week. Sam Howell from North Carolina. He threw a touchdown in every game that he played at North Carolina, 37 of them. Falcons head coach Arthur Smith played at North Carolina. The second player they're going to meet is Malik Willis, Liberty University quarterback. He was born in Atlanta. He went to Roswell High School. Number 3 would be Matt Corral, the Ole Miss standout. They've already met with him once. They went to his pro day. I'm sure they've been to Willis's pro day too. An SEC standout, an outstanding quarterback. Wayne, the Falcons are doing their due diligence on the quarterback position. I don't see them drafting a quarterback in the first round. They have too many needs. They have needs everywhere. You can name it except for the secondary. And with 5 picks in the first 100, I would think they would go with the most jarring need to me, which is defensive line. JJ says receiver, but to me, you can get the value of receiver in the 3rd round just as you can the first round. There are just so many good ones out there, where if you can get those 2 pass rushers and right there early in the draft, that really sets the tone for your defense. But these are the quarterbacks they're looking at. To me, the most intriguing of the 3 is probably Willis, and then Corral, maybe Corral and Willis, either one. But of course, they also, Kenny Pickett. He's the guy, if the Falcons were to choose a quarterback at 8, that's the guy I would think they would go to. But they just have too many needs for me. I like that they're doing their due diligence, but too many needs. They really need to bulk it. If they draft a quarterback, I'm thinking it's not going to be until the 3rd or 4th round, or they're just going to skip it altogether, unless they get someone that they really, really like and they've really gotten to know. Your thoughts? Where do you think they'll go? You think they'll go quarterback? I don't.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go quarterback. But I was wondering, where did AJ McCarron ended up going?
I do not know that question. I know he was on the Bengals roster at one time.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
I know last year he got hurt in the preseason. He was signed up for Atlanta.
Right, right.
But
Yep.
then, so did they just let him go? Is he working down at the car wash now? What happened?
I have no clue about AJ McCarron. I don't know. That's a good question. All I know right now is they're looking. They're definitely looking for a quarterback, even though they've signed Marcus Mariota. They're still looking, and they're looking really hard, and they're doing their homework. While at the same time, I don't even think the Falcons know what they're doing, honestly, until you get in that war room and until the first 7 picks of the draft are taken. No team knows what they're going to do unless you're drafting at number 1 or unless you've got a trade that's coming right up. They don't know. You're going to have to kind of let the draft play itself out and make the pick. But the fact that they're thoroughly doing their homework, I'm impressed with this coaching staff. I thought they got the team to overachieve last year at 7-10, and I tell you what, they got their work cut out for them, Wayne. They need help everywhere, but in the secondary. I think that to improve the team inside out is the best way to go. But, how they do it, nobody knows. No one's going to know until they make that 8th pick. And then we're going to get an idea of the direction they're going to go. Until then, it's all speculation.
Yep.
There's no doubt. I mean, now, we all know about Matt Corral really well. You and I do, because we've had David Walker of the Rebel Walk, who covers Ole Miss sports, on here many times. We may get him on again before the draft and have him talk about Matt Corral and see where he thinks he can go. And that's something we probably will do. That's a tease for you listeners out there in the future. I definitely want to get David on before the NFL draft, and I definitely want to talk quarterbacks with him. They say this class is not near as good as a year ago. Who knows? But anyhow, it's been a lot of fun this evening, Wayne. Anything that you can think of? You want to add anything here? If I can switch and go back to another sport and talked about DH, I'm just not a fan of the DH in the National League. But if you're going to do the DH now, to me, you really want to change the game and change it for the better. I think you got to raise the mound back to 1968. You got to move the fences back. These athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster. Move it back 10 feet. Move it back, raise the mound, start bringing, besides the home run, the walk, and the strikeout into this game with more doubles, triples, stolen bases, bunts. I just would like to see it. Even if you do those things, even with the DH, you can still bring back small ball back into the game. That's what I would like to see. I'm a National League type guy in terms of the type of baseball I want to see. Now, you're a Rangers fan. Does that kind of stuff sound good to you, or?
Well, I've always watched teams with the DH, and it made sense to me, and so I don't mind it as much. But if they're looking to shorten the game and make it less long, they need to cut all of the TV timeouts for commercials. Just do the commercials at other times.
Well, number 1, but number 2, they got to pay their sponsors. But the thing is, all these pitching changes make the game even longer. And now with the shortened spring training, pitchers aren't going very long into games, and you get more starting more relief pitchers in the game. Therefore, you have a longer game. And I would like to see it shortened too, but that's another topic for another day. Wayne, I really enjoyed it this evening. We got Dave on at the last minute, and it was spectacular. And I just want to say thank you, and I want to thank all our followers out there. You can follow us all at ATL Prime Sports. Get myself at Corder Todd. Get JJ at JJ Get You One. Get Wayne at RWY Jr. All of us at ATL Prime Sports. And Dave at Georgia State Voice, right? Is that right on Twitter? Is that his handle? I forgot.
It's GA State Voice.
GA State Voice. I'm sorry. It's I messed that up. My fault. That's why I got you with me. So I mistake, you pounce on it right away. It's like a defensive lineman with the Falcons desperately need. The quarterback makes a mistake for the opposing team. He pounces on the football. You're my defensive lineman here. So appreciate it, Wayne. I had fun this evening, and everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Good night.